We move on to priority business C, building committee update. Tom?
So let me tell you a couple of things that are happening as we move forward. We actually met last night as a committee, and we continue to work on listening to the visioning work that's taking place at the high school. It's quite honestly, it's a very robust program that's taking place at this point, focused on academics and education going forward. And quite honestly, not as much about what the buildings will be or looking at anything from that vantage point. I think Chris leads the efforts to make sure that we get a clear vision of the educational needs before we even venture into trying to figure out what the buildings will be. And I applaud him for that effort. We also got an update relative to space available to us through the MSBA program and our current situation. And we began to see a little bit of discussion about each of the buildings in terms of either the opportunities that there could be in terms of renovating them or the limitations that they could pose in terms of trying to change the structure of that building. And we also know that a number of our members have been out on a road trip, visiting a number of new projects, primarily new construction buildings. And there was some discussion about some of those facilities and some of the challenges and the strengths of that visit. We are getting excited for the forums that are coming up, and the first one will be in Orleans on the 14th. And our architects and OPM will be leading that process in terms of presenting some information to update the people in attendance. And then it's safe to say that they're going to go through somewhat of a process like the visioning process at the high school in terms of giving them an opportunity to share some of their ideas and some of their questions relative to the project going forward. And quite honestly, it more than likely could be in small group settings around tables and reporting out, and we're excited to move forward. We anticipate the website launching to be at 12:01 on Friday. Don't stay up if you're sleeping in. And we're excited as our owner project managers team is working with us on that launch. And we think it's going to be truly beneficial for our community and others to follow the process as it goes forward. So that's where we stand at this point.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions for Tom? Yes, Dick.
Tom, is there any further thought being given in this round to adding a swimming pool at the high school?
Yeah. So at this point, it is safe to say that we haven't made any decisions around any buildings on the campus. But I can tell you that as I move around the district, either in my personal life or in the role as a superintendent, I've had a number of people mention that. I can tell you that, and that's not something new. That's been going on for many years of the discussion of a pool. And there has been a group of people over the years who have shown some interest in their participation in helping to get a pool in our district. And I'm going to reach out to them to see if they have still some interest in that, or they have any desire to look at the options. I can tell you this, that we know that the MSBA will not be paying for a pool. And I mean, in terms of their dollars. But there will be some decisions, I'm sure, throughout the project in terms of what we believe the needs to be, and understanding the funding that will come with those needs, and whether or not in some situations we decide as a building committee to recommend to you eventually that we think that this is a worthy cause, and although it might cost some additional dollars in the community, it's something we should consider, and that's where we stand.
So that involves the possibility of private fundraising.
That will be some discussion I have with them, there's no question.
But when the, I'm sorry, Chris,
No,
gonna-
please, that's fine.
through
Okay,
the chair.
Please.
The students
What
put
do you
out
think,
this,
John?
this document last spring that was very interesting to read. And one of the points they made
I'm
is
sorry, which
that,
document are you referring to?
the one they came out called The Perceptions Regarding the Construction of a Swimming Pool, which I think came out of a class at the high school, so it's some kind of social science.
A couple of students were involved, and one young lady was,
Alicia Rosabelle and Jack Johnson.
that's right.
Yeah. So, one thing they pointed out is that part of the existence of the pool could be to train students to be lifeguards. And that's a major community, creation of a community, asset. And I'm surprised that the building council would reject out of hand a pool for a school on the Cape, partly for that reason.
I think that we're going to have further discussion about this, Richard, there's no question. And the MSBA, as you mentioned, the group that is involved in overseeing the funding of the projects, have certain guidelines statewide, and there are certain things that they're willing to participate in and not. And I can't speak for them, but I can tell you that we're going to take that document and move forward with conversation to understand. And as I just mentioned to you, these forums allow our citizens to come forward and speak and ask questions and share, and some of it will be their vision in terms of what they want to see for the future of this facility.
Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the topics that I'm getting up to speed on, of several, is the educational plan. And I must say, I've been really impressed with where the process is in terms of the involvement of the entire staff at the high school. I wondered how this was going to come together, and I never envisioned that extensive an input, so I applaud the principal and whoever is driving the boat in that, because I think that's tremendous. At the same time, that raises a question for me, and that is, with the draft of the educational plan, is there going to be given an opportunity for other interested parties to review and provide input on the document, and what might that be? From a personal standpoint, the educational plan is one of the most important pieces of what we're trying to do with that building committee, and I'm just curious if someone's interested in participating outside of the high school ranks, what the steps are to
Sure.
make that happen.
So, first of all, we see this as a launching period to begin to get information out in the community focused on this project. And the forums are looking to begin that journey in terms of going into the community and listening and having a two-way conversation. And I can tell you that in terms of the forums, and there will be forums in all 4 of our communities this month, and I want to thank Ann. There were 4 dates left that we could possibly do this, and it happened. We got it done, and there were no other dates to play around with. And from there, so this is for the citizens of our community. We have sent letters to all our boards, selectmen and FinComs, inviting them to the forum. And then from there, we have identified potentially somewhere between 60 and 75 groups that we plan to go out and speak to and have conversation and solicit and listen to their desires for an educational plan for our program going forward. Now that is tremendously aggressive, and there'll be 3 or 4 of us who are in a position to be able to do that. And we are now working, I just talked with Chris, because I've had a number of people wonder if they could get an opportunity to tour the high school. They say to me, I've never been on that facility. And Chris and I are working on the possibility of dedicating a day of the week. We just cannot do this randomly 5 or 6 days a week and stay with any consistency. That we're toying with the idea of having one day, i.e., let's say Friday, that if you want to get a tour of the high school, and I love Chris's response to when do we want to do it. Chris is right away in 10 seconds. We want to do it when kids are there. We want them to see the school and as it operates. So we're looking at a tour program that might look something along the lines, it isn't finalized, that it might be, for instance, on Fridays, and you need to call this number, and we'll be going on the half hour or the hour if you want to take a tour. And they'll see exactly what the states are in terms of the needs of this facility, as well as other pieces they might want to participate in. That's just the beginning, and I think many of us believe that this is a community facility. It isn't just a high school, and we want that sort of input from as many people. And I think for each of us sitting here, we have circles of people that we know that we can advise of the possibilities and encourage them to participate so that we get this right from the beginning. So thank you, Jim, for that question.
Any other questions? Yes, Bob?
I want to support my two colleagues' comments, Jim and Richard's. The teachers who are on the building committee, I think, are playing a major leadership role in making sure that this visioning in the high school is meaningful. And I think your suggestion is really important for other people being able to participate in that activity and see the report that comes out. The information provided by the two students, one student, my understanding, is a swimmer. I'm not sure if he was an All-American or not, but he was very gifted. The other student is someone who saw a need, and these two students took it upon themselves to collect systematically the data that was necessary. I was surprised that the chair of the building committee didn't have the report. I'm not sure how you acquired it, Richard, but
We were given it last April.
yeah, but he did not have it.
I'll have to check with the group.
Yeah, he might want to have it, so I wanted to make sure it was passed on to him. My view, when I looked at it, was that it's probably the most systematic data that they have at the present time that moves beyond just collection, but also analysis of the data. And I think it's a fairly sophisticated way for those kind of data. So I really am pleased to see that this is starting to come up as a topic. I'm glad Richard brought it up.
Excellent. Yes, Ed?
I just, ever since I've been on this committee, I've always had my little speech about we have to take care of all kids in the school. Each kid deserves the same break as every other kid. And I just hope that when they start putting together the student syllabus for classes and stuff like that, that they remember that every kid, no matter how gifted or non-gifted he or she is, gets a fair break.
Excellent. Any other questions? Tom, thank you.